Hello and welcome to the Under Center podcast. I am joined today by Rian Malloy. It's a Malloy only podcast today. Rian, how are you?
I'm good. I'm glad that we're able to run amok without Daramar killing all the fun.
And on week one of all things, when all the storylines are fresh and juicy and we can just rant about anything, all the Seahawks hate is coming your way. So if you're a Seahawks fan, turn it off. But don't worry, we have got some expert analysis coming up. We've got Jason Bell joining us to go through all the week one action later in the show. But to kick the show off, we're going to hit it with some news, some of our own personal topics, and then we'll see what Jason has to say kind of going through the games later on. And then stay tuned after Jason. We'll be talking to Josh Klingler previewing the Thursday night football match, Chiefs against the Chargers. But let's kick it off, Rain. Week one, probably the worst time to get an injury, especially a dramatic one. And there was a few injuries around the league that we're going to talk about. We've got the likes of Dak Prescott out with a thumb. He's anywhere between 4, 6, and 8 weeks, I've heard on him. Keenan Allen sprained a hamstring or a quad, not sure really which one, but definitely a leg muscle injury. He had to leave the game early. And TJ Watt, a huge part of the Pittsburgh Steelers, he tore a pec, possibly a bicep. Again, we're not 100% sure. And timelines for him are varying as well. It seems like it's not 100% that he's going to have surgery. If he does, he'd be out for the season. But first of all, what do you think of those injuries? How are they going to affect their teams? And which for you has the biggest impact on the team?
Well, I think biggest impact, no doubt about it, it's going to be Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott is the lifeblood of that offense down there in Dallas. This injury, 6 weeks, 8 weeks. Jerry Jones was talking like he was a doctor. He seemed to know more than everybody after the game. But yeah, it's going to be tough for them. You know, they're going to have to roll with, I can't even remember the name of the quarterback. I think it's Rush, right? Cooper Rush, their backup. That guy is not up to the same level as Dak Prescott. We saw in the game against the Buccaneers, they struggled to get the run game going as well. This is going to be really, really tough couple of weeks. But yeah, outside of that, TJ Watt is going to be a massive, massive loss for the Steelers. They have built that defense around him. And they're quite lucky in the sense that they have a very strong defense overall. So they may not miss him as much as the Cowboys will, but he's certainly going to be a big, big loss. Now, the story out at the moment is that he will avoid surgery on that pec, and it will only be 6 to 8 weeks, but it's really up in the air at the moment.
Yeah, and the Cowboys really struggled. Dak went out in the fourth quarter. They didn't manage a lot of points, even with him on the pitch. Do you attribute that more to the Buccaneers' really strong defense, or is this extra worrying as a Cowboys fan, given how little production you got out of Dak to now have to switch to your backup, Cooper Rush, and see what he can do? Ezekiel Elliott as well did not have a particularly brilliant game by his standards. So really struggling on offensive output at the moment for the Cowboys.
Right. Yeah. I kind of looked at the 5-minute replay of the game after it happened and saw that Dak was really keying in on CeeDee Lamb as his main target. And I was like, why is he doing this? He's double teamed on every play. But then I went back and had a look at the game as a whole and realized that the guys out there besides CeeDee Lamb were just not up to scratch. They were missing Michael Gallup on the game, and it really showed. You know, they were not getting open for him, forcing Dak to go to his familiar target in CeeDee Lamb, and it just wasn't working out.
Yeah, so obviously injuries will affect, and we'll keep an eye on those and how those teams can manage around it, because that's a huge part of playing in the NFL. Injuries are going to happen. It's how you manage it. Moving on to the week's games, obviously you're a Panthers fan. We're going to talk to you about Baker Mayfield's homecoming against the Browns. Didn't quite go the way they wanted, but I believe you suspect not entirely because of Baker Mayfield's play on the pitch.
Well, look, I want to preface this by saying the Panthers did a lot of things to lose that game at the weekend, but I want to key in on some of the key decisions made at the end of the game by the referees. So firstly, this was right at the end after Baker Mayfield had driven down into a position where Eddie Pinheiro could kick the field goal to put the Panthers ahead. They kicked the ball away. The Browns had to start at the 25-yard line, and one of the major plays in that first set of downs was a roughing the passer call versus Brian Burns. Now, it went to the replay in the stadium, and everybody in the stadium could see that there was no roughing involved there. He pushed the left tackle back into the quarterback. The left tackle's helmet made light contact with Jacoby Brissett's helmet. That's not roughing the passer. And then a hand came down onto the top of Jacoby Brissett's head. Now, a ruling has been made during the off season to basically say that this is no longer a foul. Tom Brady got hurt by a hand to the head one time 20 years ago, and they brought this rule in. It's about time that they got rid of it. Now, obviously, it's happening in real time. The referees are not going to be able to spot that. But surely at this stage, with the technology that we have, we can send refereeing decisions to a replay official in the last 2 minutes of the game. We don't want referees to be deciding outcomes of games. Later on, about 2 plays later, there was another call where Jacoby Brissett went to spike the ball. He did something funny. He didn't spike it immediately, and two of the referees drew flags to basically say it was intentional grounding. The Whitecap overruled them and said, no, it was a spike after a fake spike, which is a spike. And that doesn't make sense to me, to be honest. So 2 big calls at the end of the game that really decided the outcome of the game, if you know what I mean. Now, I'm not saying that the Panthers should have won that game. They absolutely did not deserve it. But yeah, it's painful to see referees taking the center stage in a game like that where there's so much else going on.
We were speaking off air. You have high hopes for the Panthers this season. Did you feel briefly that Mayfield's play still continues to give you optimism? And how happy were you as well to see McCaffrey on the score sheet after so long missing?
Yeah, so there's a couple of parts to that. You know, Baker Mayfield, he kind of stank it up a little bit in the first half, but then he got his feet under him and he started playing well. And we saw him do something that both Teddy Bridgewater and Sam Darnold couldn't do in the last 2 years, and that was lead a go-ahead drive in the last 2 minutes of the game. Neither of those quarterbacks could manage it at all in the whole 2 years tenure that they had. So there is positives to draw from that. You know, this guy, Baker Mayfield, he is a game winner. He knows how to get the job done. So that's important. And it was absolutely very nice to see Christian McCaffrey on the score sheet again. I'm a little bit confused as to why they didn't give him more touches during the game. I think in the first half, he had 3 rushes for 9 yards and 3 catches for something like 16 yards. But that's not bell cow back material like they have been running with him in previous years. And I think really in any game that you're going to give him 30 touches, make it be this one. Give your new quarterback a chance to start out, get his feet under him. They went pass in the first series of the game. I really don't understand it.
Well, look, yours was not the only team with a new quarterback. My Washington Commanders also started week 1 with a new quarterback. Carson Wentz came in, and I think we got what we suspected we will get. I think we got a mostly good Carson Wentz. He, of course, gave us a roller coaster, but that was not unknown. That was not a surprise. And I think his good outweighed the bad, especially having watched this team for the last 2 years in particular. We've had quarterbacks throw 2 interceptions in a game. The problem is we've never had that quarterback also throw 4 touchdowns. And that's what Carson Wentz gives us. That last throw to Jahan Dotson was a great throw, even better catch by the youngster. I think if that tandem can get going and give Terry McLaurin any help at all in the receiving side of things, it's going to make Washington a little bit more dangerous on offense. Of course, they're going to give up a couple of interceptions. It's just how Wentz plays, and I think you're going to have to manage that and slowly graduate that out of him. But at the moment, it's exciting football, it's attacking football, and for once, it's scoring football. Now, that's tempered as well. It was the Jacksonville Jaguars, not exactly everyone's top 5 preseason pick. But we'll see. We get a nice start to the season. We've got the Lions coming up. They played the Eagles and narrowly lost in the end. They mounted a big comeback, which was interesting to see. So they've got firepower, especially given Washington didn't exactly stifle on defense. A couple of flashes of good plays, but again, some problems with a little bit of soft coverage. It was quite easy for the touchdown drive that Jacksonville scored. One of them that Lawrence conducted, he cut through the field pretty easily. I think 3-4 plays, he was down in the red zone already. So that's something we're going to need to tighten up on. But yeah, for me as a Washington fan, I'm happy with what I saw out of Wentz. It's what I wanted. I knew he wasn't going to be completely stable game manager. No, what could you say? No risks taken. He's a risky player. He's got a lot of upside. He's going to give you some bad stuff. It's what we got, and we saw enough good side, I think, for me to be excited. Did you see anything in that Washington game that would lead you to contradict me, or do you think actually, having seen them on the pitch, that maybe this offense is a little bit better than what we've seen before?
Oh, absolutely. This offense is night and day better than they have been in the past couple of years. What really struck me was their use of the running back out of the backfield in the passing game. I think Gibson had the highest PFF grade for receiving at running back last week. I thought they utilized him very well. I think he kind of offers that more so than their newbie in Robinson. Robinson's more of a physical downhill runner. Yeah, I'm interested to see how that works going forward. I don't know. Did you notice that yourself? And are you excited to see them use Gibson as a kind of a receiving back more so than they have done in the past?
Yeah, I think that's an important point because we've seen Gibson have issues with ball retention in the running back when they've run him 20, 30 times a game. And I think having a stable of running backs where you can have him on the pitch as a legitimate run threat, but also a very good pass threat, I think that offers an extra wrinkle where Robinson is going to bang it. He's going to run it downhill hard. He's very good at that. So having him on the pitch doesn't necessarily limit the offense. But I think what it's nice is now it gives Antonio Gibson the chance to shine and perform only where he's good at and not be relied on where he is a converted wide receiver. So it's probably not unusual for him to struggle with holding onto the ball. I think you'd love to give him a few years to develop that out. I think that is a trait we can kind of teach out. And so having this time with a good running back behind him or alongside him, depending which way you want to look at the depth chart, I think it's good. I think it's good for him. And it's good for Washington to have that wrinkle, not be so reliant on pound the ball with a guy where you kind of have your fingers crossed every time he catches the ball.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sorry. Go ahead.
I agree with that statement in terms of, yeah, it's a good thing to have that wrinkle, but I also think it's a good thing for Gibson himself. He has this narrative about him that he's dropping the football, and I think getting him out into space where he maybe has 1 or 2 tacklers coming towards him as opposed to 4 300-pound guys, I think that's going to suit him very well. It's going to lead to less drops, and it might increase his confidence to actually go and run it through the between the guards and kind of, become that all-round back that we know he can be.
Absolutely. Well, listen, Rain, we've got a jam-packed show. We've got Jason Bell joining us next after the break to talk all the week 1 action and to help us as well look forward to the Thursday night football clash, Chiefs against Chargers. So stay tuned and we'll see you after this break.
You know why man's so different this year? Feel sense. It changes everything. So I can finally throw the rock.
Hey, check it. Okay, I feel unstoppable. Losing's impossible.
And put the ball where only I can catch it.
Thing they know.
Yo, hit boy, what you think?
I could make the biggest hit in the game, man.
You ain't lying, bro. We live?
Oh, we live.
We made it till you got dollars. Go out and shop for you.
Taylor?
Wait, just...
We're live.
Wait, what? Slice up the defense with Field Sense.
You can do that too.
We need some big plays, big hits right now.
Say less.
Game on the
Woo, now that's a hit.
time we do deep.
Touche.
So, what can you change with Field Sense?
I don't judge, I sing. Just staying down for the come up till I reign supreme.
Everything.
Let's get it. Yeah, hit boy, we got another one. Ha! Man, y'all boys ain't ready for this, man.
Hello and welcome back to the Under Center podcast. I am still joined here by my brother Rain, and we have brought in the big guns. It's week 1 of the NFL. There's a lot of stuff to talk about. We've brought in the expert, Jason Bell. Thank you so much for joining us. We're getting ready to have a look through all the games of week 1, and we might even look forward to week 2 as well.
Oh, man, I appreciate it. But I'll tell you what, I don't think I'm an expert because I couldn't call any of these games this week. I don't know what just happened, man. I was clear and concise and had everything broken down. And then I understand once again, you never know in the NFL. It's week to week. So here we go.
Well, Jason, on this podcast, we have a little bit of a competition going on in terms of predicting the games. And both me and Fionn went 8-8 this week. So not too good ourselves either.
That's a winning record.
We'll take it. But before we do jump into the games, Jason, exciting news for you. You're obviously working with ITV, and over here in Ireland, Virgin Media are going to be having it. The NFL show has signed a deal with the NFL for the next 3 years. You're going to be hosting that alongside Laura Woods and Osi Umenyiora. How excited are you to have that for the next 3 years and get involved not only in the football, but also bring it to the audience, which is so well supported over there in the UK, but also over here in Ireland as well?
You know, I'm really excited. I love what we do and the opportunity we have to be the voice of the NFL for this country and this fan base. You know, it's so unique. It's so invigorating. I couldn't imagine being anywhere else. But man, Laura Woods, we've been friends a long time, and we had been discussing if there was ever an opportunity to make this happen, we would try. And it took a lot of convincing for Laura. She is in high demand. So we mentioned it to her. She was like, yeah, okay. But it took a lot of begging. And now we got her, and it is just going to be so fun. I mean, the conversations that we're going to have around the game, the way we're going to dig into it, the storylines, the fascinating things. She's just the best at that. And then the live games, having those and being able to get down there and get in the action, showing this audience what it's like to be down there with the players before the game, breaking it down. I mean, it's going to be so great. This is what we live for. We love this game. So having the ability to continue to talk about it with this partnership with ITV, it's going to be amazing. I'm really excited because of who we have and what we have. I mean, we're really going to give it all this year like we do every year. It's going to be special now with Laura.
You mentioned there as well, of course, the game seems to be growing over here. We've got games in Germany this season as well to look forward to. Obviously, the slate of games in the UK as well. It must be amazing to be there. It's such a different atmosphere. Every time we listen to the commentary on those American broadcasts, we hear them oohing and awing about how eclectic the fandom is over there. All sorts of jerseys showing up to watch a game between two teams. It must be so exciting to be there, feel that atmosphere, and be able to broadcast it and just show how much the game is loved and how much you guys love the game.
Yeah, it's so unique because, I think of it as a player. I always go into my player mode when I'm in a stadium. And you look up, and it's this whole different vibe that you wouldn't get unless you were in a playoff game, a playoff home game. The way this crowd is, the emotion behind it. I mean, it's a spectacle from the beginning to the end. You don't get that in a regular season game in the U.S. It doesn't happen. So the players know coming over here, it's going to be special. It's talked about. It's discussed. They know. Some guys, it's their first time outside of the country, and they get to come here and experience a game like this where the fans of this country, the fans of Europe have made it their own. That's what makes it so special. This is their game in this country. We're just visitors coming into play.
So obviously, Jason, the New York Giants are coming to play in the Tottenham Hotspur Arena this year. Do you have them backed against the Green Bay Packers? Obviously, the Packers didn't start off too well against the Vikings this weekend.
No, man. It's like they got a chance now, right? Before the season, I was a little nervous for my Giants. But no, you never know what can happen week to week. I expect Green Bay to get better. Green Bay lost last year in the opener, too. And Aaron Rodgers came back and said, everybody relax. I think he even spelled it out. So I feel like, when you got a guy who's got 2 MVPs back to back, they're going to find a way. But I'm so excited for this Giants team, not only because it's near and dear to my heart, but I love what they've done in the coaching staff and the front office. And with Saquon Barkley playing like he did last week, this guy, he's feeling the heat of, I used to be the one everybody loved. Now everybody forgot about me. And it fired him up. And you could see the way he's playing. He is playing with reckless abandon. And that's how you have to play the running back position. Just explosive. And that's what you saw. If he can continue to do that, I feel like the pressure will be off Daniel Jones. This will be Saquon Barkley's offense, running through him, play tough defense, and you got a chance. You're going to have a battle, man. You're going to have a battle out here, and you get to see 2 major superstars in Barkley and Aaron Rodgers.
That's a great segue into discussing the week's action, and we'll stick with the Giants just quickly before we move on. Is there now a much bigger uptick in positivity after this week 1? Obviously, a win will always do that. They were hard to come by last season. This is, I believe, the first time the Giants have been over 500 at any point over the last 5 or 6 seasons. So it's a big swing. Saquon's back. He's feeling it. Teams, like you said, they almost forgot how good he is, and he showed them straight out of the gate week 1. Are you hearing any huge swell of positivity? New York, big media market, can be a difficult place when things aren't going well. Is this a really positive start to the season? I mean, of course it is. It's a W, but are the fans really getting behind us and believing, hey, we've turned a corner here?
I don't know if they think they've turned the corner, but there's hope. And you need, on offense, they're looking for somebody to be the spark to the engine, right? They're looking for somebody to be the bell cow, make it happen. All the pressure's been on Daniel Jones, right? Can this quarterback find his way? But I think the shift can go to the running game. This is New York City. This is a tough place. This is grind it out. Give it to Saquon. He's a tough dude, but can make those highlight plays. So I just think in that building, especially with Brian Daboll, I think they're going to start figuring out who their identity is, who they are on offense, especially. And that's going to happen this week. You go out, you get a win, a tough win, and you realize that you can close out games. It makes you it makes the whole locker room positive, but it gives you that sense of we can get it done when we have to, and that's important in the NFL.
Is it a big blow for the Titans, or is it everyone kind of feeling themselves out week 1? Of course, all the fan bases, if you went 1-0, you're going to the Super Bowl. If you went 0-1, it's every game's a loss. Season's a write-off already. How big a blow is it, though, for the Titans, considering the preseason speculation and talk around the 2 teams? I don't think a lot of people would have said it would be close, never mind a New York win.
Yeah, you can never get too high or too low on week 1. And obviously you're upset because you lose. But Mike Vrabel teams are always mentally tough, always. And the Titans have their ups and downs. They're a good team. They'll be all right, especially in their division, the AFC South, right? They can still go out there and find a way to be a dominant force. So they'll look at the tape. They'll realize the things they got to fix. And what happens now a lot of times is you come out of preseason and you got this ideal of who you are as a team. Like, oh, this is who we are. This is how we're going to play. And then week 1 lets you know, nah, that's not it. And you have to shift tracks. And that's what's happening. Reevaluating who you got, and what you're going to do. So everybody's doing that. Don't panic. Don't jump off the ship. It'll all be all right.
I guess
for some teams.
I guess nice to see the king, the running back, coming back and showing a little bit of toughness as well, and showing really tough runs that he was known for. Derrick Henry last season obviously got that injury, came back for the playoffs, didn't look quite right. So maybe the Titans fan breathing a little sigh of relief to see him back to his hard running style again.
Yeah, without a doubt. All you got to do now with social media is watch how these guys train in the offseason. And the way when you look at Derrick Henry, he's coming back ready to wreck shop. I mean, the guy is he's a phenomenal athlete, but the way he prepares himself for the volume of carries he has each year is tremendous. And, he sets the tone for that offense. That's their identity, as a guy like that, tough, hard-nosed runner that dishes out punishment. He brings it to the defense. And that really, like I said, sets the tone for your team.
Now, you obviously cover the NFL, and if you're like us over the last couple of months, we've had to drag up stories talking about contracts, talking about trades, things only the really nerdy football fans like to talk about. Finally, we have football to talk about again, and the NFL season kicked off hard on a Thursday night football game. Bills against the defending champs Rams. What a game. The Bills looks hot. The Rams got off to a slow start. Are you surprised that the Rams didn't get going? And how good does Josh Allen look?
Let's start with Josh Allen. Yes, he looked good. And he had a lot of pressure. I was wondering how he would handle that. Not just as a team, I was like, how are the Bills going to handle all the offseason pressure, right? Everybody's crowning them kings. But I thought about Josh Allen. You know, when you are the favorite for the MVP out of the gate, what are you going to do? How are you going to play? And he started just like he left off last year when he lost that playoff game, on fire. He is that offense. He is a weapon. I mean, there's a reason why you try to get a 6'5", 245-pound quarterback. He can take all the hits. He can deliver them. He can stand in the pocket. I mean, you see the way he throws the ball. Look at how different it is than other players. It jumps out of his hands. I mean, he's literally waiting for those guys to come out of their break, and he's delivering it. That's what kind of power he has. Most quarterbacks need timing and rhythm to make those kind of throws. He can just wing it. So, you know, watching him play like that, I know he's ready for the moment. As far as the Rams are concerned, I was a little worried about the Super Bowl hangover. That's tough, man. You know, they're in L.A. They were feeling it. I thought there might be a little letdown in the first quarter of the season. This doesn't surprise me. And this was a hard matchup. You know, Matthew Stafford and his arm, talking about the soreness and the issues he's had. That always worries you. It's concerning. I think they'll figure it out. McVay always does. They always always find a way to adjust. And I think when your superstars play bad, like Jalen Ramsey, how it was highlighted, I think he comes to practice a little bit angry and motivated. You come back the next game and you got to prove to the rest of the NFL community that you are great. I've seen that happen before. So I expect them to bounce back, but they're not the team they were last year.
So you mentioned Jalen Ramsey there just before finishing. What did you think of his game as a former cornerback? Do you think this was a really poor game from Jalen Ramsey, or was he just matched up against one of the best in the NFL and Stephon Diggs?
He had poor plays. I mean, the stats don't lie. It wasn't good. You know, they move him around a lot. He does a lot for that team. It's really hard to play all the positions like he does. He's in the slot. He's on the outside. They ask him to do a lot. And as a corner, I understand how difficult and demanding that is. So I'm always careful on how I critique him. I mean, because he does have a well-rounded game. But just like an offensive tackle, if you get beat for 2 sacks, you could have blocked good the entire game, but you gave up them 2 money sacks. And that's the corner position. So you got to come through in the big moments, and that didn't happen. So that's what I think he's going to go back and reevaluate, maybe his focus, his technique, all those things. When you play a bad game at the defensive back position especially, one thing a great corner told me was go back to the basics, man. Go back to the basics. You know, the simple things keep you out of trouble. Work on those, and I think that's what Jalen will do.
We saw good cornerback play out of a brand new rookie, Sauce Gardner, on the Jets. He played well. The Jets necessarily did not. They got pretty much handled quite handily by the Ravens. Lamar Jackson looked fantastic. He didn't seem bothered by all this contract talk. He's obviously representing himself as well, so he didn't have an agent looking after that for him. So a lot of off-season noise for him. He came out the gate pretty fast, especially considering the Ravens don't play any of their or most of their starters during the preseason games. How did you assess Sauce Gardner, and did you see anything in Lamar Jackson's play that suggests maybe he's going to play a little bit different in this contract year versus years we've seen him before?
Yeah, with regards to Sauce, I mean, you know, I always like the corners, right? So, and a friend of mine is one of the DB coaches over there. So I'm rooting for how Sauce plays. But yeah, he played good. I mean, one thing about Sauce is he has the intangibles, especially the way he's built. He's long, but he can get in and out of his breaks, which is really good. You know, he plays the ball well in the air. And I'm not taking anything away from his performance, but, you know, when you play against the Ravens, it's not like you play against this high-power passing attack, right? But he played well. It's the NFL. It's tough. But you just got to be consistent. But I like the way he started. I like what he's doing, and that's why he was drafted so high. As far as Lamar's concerned, you know, the first thing I thought when he supposedly said no to that contract is, man, you better ball every single week. Like, you got to start fast because you got to make them know every time you're on the field that price is going up for somebody, you know, because of how he plays and what he brings to the table. So I just really wanted him to play like that. And he's it sounds like he's betting on himself. He's betting on his performance at every twist and turn of the NFL season. I'm cool with that if he is. So as a fan, it's really kind of, I think about it, it's exhilarating, right? We get to watch a guy who's trying to lead his team to a championship. Obviously, he's got all the fanfare behind him because he's Lamar Jackson. But then he's also playing for this life-changing contract at the same time. Like, it's the greatest movie script ever. And we get to watch that every week. You know, this is what we love as NFL fans. So, you know, I kind of thank Lamar Jackson for putting it on the line for us to talk about. So, appreciate it, Lamar.
Well, one guy certainly did start hot, and he was at the quarterback position as well. Jason, is Patrick Mahomes getting even better than we've seen him in previous seasons? He just came out of the gates flying. He's got a lot of weapons around him, but my God, does he know how to use them?
Man, I love Patrick Mahomes. I put it out there so it's not news or news breaking. I think they're going to be in the Super Bowl, and I think they're going to win it. And I think Patrick Mahomes is going to be the MVP. I said this before this first week. Everybody's on the Josh Allen hype train. I get it. I understand it. But I thought with Andy Reid and offseason, figuring out how teams adjusted to them, a change up as far as his receivers are concerned, I knew they were going to have a plan for Patrick Mahomes in this offense. And just remember, never forget. I mean, it's easy to because it's it's week to week in the NFL. But this guy, what he can do throwing the ball, the way he sees the field, it's amazing. His mobility is effortless, especially in the pocket, the way he can move around and create those second reaction plays. But now it feels like because he no longer has Tyreek Hill, he has guys that are specific targets to things they do well. He looks at one guy and goes, okay, this is what you do well. This is what you do well. This is where the offense tells me to go with the ball, and he does it. And you see that. It was discussed. People thought this would be what it would be, but when you lose Tyreek Hill, you're always questioning, how is it going to work? I think we're seeing it, and it's only going to get better. I'm telling you, watch out. Watch out, because he is ready, and he's got that attitude too. He's like, hey, y'all forgot about me? I'm going to remind you. So, once again, another brilliant storyline for us to follow.
And Jason, how difficult is it as a cornerback when you come up against a guy like Patrick Mahomes, a guy who can extend the play for 10, 12, 15 seconds? It must be ridiculously difficult to cover for that long, particularly if you're in man coverage.
Yeah, if I got to cover for 15 seconds, it's all over for your boy. I'm out there, sitting next to my family because it's not going to work out for me. But yeah, so it's okay. That is true, and that is scary. But what really makes that component frightening is the fact that he can make every throw. An example, you can extend the play. You can boot out to the right, say. But as a defender, I've evaluated you as a quarterback, and I'm thinking, all right, he can't make that throw all the way back to his left on the outside. So I'm starting to cut off portions of the field I have to cover and be responsible for. You can't do that versus Pat. That's the scary thing. Like, the best quarterbacks attack the entire field, period. That's what makes him the best, because you can't stop everything. He can do that with his arm and then extending it with his feet. He's got the O-line is great now. I mean, they're really good. But the fact that he can, he loves to step up and move out to the right, no matter how much you think, oh, this is what he wants to do, let's stop it. Try, see if you can pull it off. He's going to get you one time a game 2 times a game. Doing that, he can throw the ball anywhere. And that is what makes him so amazing.
And then just when you think you have it all covered, the coaching staff pulls out a tight end sweep pitch dive that Kelsey did into the end zone, where you think you got to cover everyone. It's a little underhand swing for about 4 yards, and Kelsey plows it into the end zone for you anyway.
Yeah, they're one of the best designing plays in the red zone, right? Condensed area, not a lot of space, got to be creative. And no matter how many times they do it, feels like they keep coming up with stuff. You're like, oh, man, again? But this is what they do. One thing about Andy Reid, never forget, he is a great play designer. That is what he does the best, and you see it every week.
Jason, one of the big storylines that was of week 1 specifically was the comeback games. That is Russell Wilson going back to face the Seahawks. We also had Mayfield on the Panthers going back to face the Browns. And I think you could probably throw in Joe Flacco as well of the Jets that we've already touched on. It didn't end particularly well for those comeback games. How do you feel does that play on a quarterback's mind? At this top level, is that a small distraction that the media likes to talk about? Or does that have a significant impact on these guys when they come back to somewhere where, in the case of Russell Wilson, a hero, maybe even one of the Hall of Famer guys for that team, or Baker Mayfield that had a very rocky ending, not sure what kind of environment or what kind of reception he's going to get when he comes back?
Yeah, let me hit Baker quick before I hit Russell. You know, with Baker, he wanted that win, obviously, everything that happened, but Baker's going to be all right. You know, think about it. Baker's just learning the offense. Mm-hmm. You know, like, imagine when he's able to kind of run through the whole playbook and all that kind of stuff. So Baker's going to be okay. Baker's going to be all right. He wanted this win, didn't get it, but Baker will be all right. The one that has got to hurt, man, Russell Wilson. I mean, this was a gimme game for him, right? This was, I'm riding back in town. Let's ride. Let's do this. Let's make it happen. Now, I know, you know, it was 2 fumbles down by the goal line and other things happened. I mean, even Seattle had some mishaps, you know, that they lost some opportunities. But, you know, Geno Smith getting interviewed after winning the game, you know, that's not what Russell envisioned. That's going to hurt him. Like the rest of the guys, they'll be upset. Man, this has got to hurt Russell. This was not a part of his plan. He did not write this chapter. So I want to see how he bounces back next week, and the team as a whole.
Yeah, I can't remember the last time that Russell Wilson went 0-4 in the red zone. Was this occasion maybe a little bit too big for him with the, the 12 being there? They were the loudest they ever have been. What do you think? Was it a bit too big for him, or was this just a bad day overall for the Broncos offense?
You know, I don't think I can't say anything is too big for a guy that's won a Super Bowl, right? I'm very conscientious of that and saying that. But the fans got to him. I think he probably would have enjoyed a better homecoming, you know, clap it up, you're back, you know, we love you, Russ. That's hard. But I think his head coach really struggled, Hackett, man. I think that, you know, his first time out there calling plays and trying to manage the game kind of caught up to him. I think he didn't get a lot, you know, that really harmed what they were trying to do as a team more than anything. So I think it's not all on Russell, but, you know, once again, the team you left is not going to love you until you retire. You know, you don't have to play against them anymore. Then they'll cheer for you, but they're not cheering for you this week. So, but yeah, I feel like this is one he'll never, ever forget. Hopefully, they go back this week and they realize just because we went and signed this quarterback, he's not the savior. As a team, we got to get better. As a staff, we got to get better. And, you know, it's just week 1. It's all about who adjusts and who adjusts fast to what you are that year. That's the thing about the NFL. The quicker you can figure out your identity this season, not last, not next, this season, next week, the better you are.
Jason, were you surprised that the Broncos gave him such a long contract? It feels like they're going to have him signed until he's about 65. So he's going to retire as a Bronco. Were you surprised, given that he's not the youngest quarterback out there?
No, because, you know, quarterbacks are playing longer. Tom Brady's helped all that. And with the trade, you knew that was coming. the ownership change, you knew that was coming. It's hard to find a quarterback. It's hard to find a quarterback Russell Wilson's caliber. Did not really surprise me, the contract. So I was expecting that. It's just now the expectations of being great kind of did surprise me, because I'm looking at that division and I'm like, yo, this is a battle just to get out of there. Like, that is a cage fight. Well, you know, before you think of anything else, like, this is not a guarantee. So I know it looks good on paper, but this is going to be tough. So I think Broncos fans are getting their first taste of that.
Before we move on and look at the Thursday night game coming up, one last thing. Obviously, a lot of rust on all of the teams. I think we saw that throughout the league. But a lot of kickers having a lot of yips in almost every game. There was a couple of games went to overtime, a lot of missed kicks, a couple of clutch kicks as well. We got to give them credit. Was that surprising a little bit? I think maybe week one tends to be the most pressure on the kickers. I feel like they're always the tightest games. Everyone's not quite up to speed. You get a lot of close last-minute kicks for the wins, which we saw a lot go through. But again, a lot of yips. What did you make of that?
Well, you know, I give no excuses for kickers. None. So I'm not going to start there. But it is tough, man. As a special teams guy, I spend a lot of time with the kickers, man. I will say this. You give them a pass. You know, a lot of them, especially the good ones, you know, missing kicks, you kind of give them a pass, but they only get one shot. I mean, they really do. They got to get it together. And maybe that is because not a lot of preseason games. Who knows? But now it's real. They got to get back into it, because one thing you can see, because of the way the NFL set up with the parity, with the games usually coming down to who has the ball in the last 2-3 minutes, right? Most games come down to the end. I mean, your kicker has to be clutch. This is why the Cincinnati Bengals got to the Super Bowl, because their kicker was making everything happen. He was money. So these guys, to be a championship caliber team, you got to get that figured out. So you'd rather have it early in the season than later.
Jason, thanks a million for going through. Obviously, there's so many storylines from week one. It's impossible for us to hit on all of them, but thanks for your input on those. Before we let you go, Thursday night, we've got the Chiefs against the Chargers. We didn't speak about the Chargers. How good is Justin Herbert? He's another man with an arm that can make any throw on the pitch. He throws that thing like a laser.
Best drop back quarterback probably in the NFL. I mean, you can say, you know, everybody says clean pocket, all that kind of stuff. And that's true. If everything's right, a lot of people can make the throws. But you see him drop back in that pocket. I mean, he's got the arm strength. He's got the height. He can see everything. It's laser darts everywhere. And he just does it in this calm, cool way. You look back on when he was drafted, and this is the thing I always hate about the draft, is the evaluation on people. And he got devalued because he was so chill. You know, he's just so relaxed, but yet this is what makes him great. And I'm like, you know, what do we want here? And this guy is out there. He's got command of everything. He keeps getting better. With that defense, if he gives them any lead, they can get after the quarterback. Like, this team nobody wants to play this team in the playoffs if they're hot. Not with this quarterback. Keenan Allen, he might have a hamstring or something.
Mm-hmm.
That worries you. He's very important. You know, Mike Williams, even though he didn't have a lot of volume, he still makes you as a defense react to him because he can take the top off quickly. So we'll see how that plays out. But hey, man, Justin Herbert, man, this is why the NFL is so great. I mean, he's in the top three quarterback. The top two, Mahomes, Allen for me. And then you got to look, you know, especially young ones, you got to look at, you know, Herbert and Burrow. I mean, this is crazy. This is just nuts. So it's going to be great to watch. I'm excited.
Well, Mr. Jason Bell, it's very easy to wax lyrical about two of your top three quarterbacks in the league, but we're going to put you on the spot here. Who's going to come out on top out of the kind of the quarterback of now and the quarterback of the future? Who's got it Thursday night? Chiefs, Chargers. Who are you going for?
Oh, I'm going for the Chiefs, man. I got to roll my team that I put on. I mean, I can't pick them in the Super Bowl and start giving up on them week to week. I can't live like that. My man OC would call me out for that. So I got to roll with it week in and week out, man.
Well, Jason, thanks a million for your time. We really appreciate it. Everybody, stay tuned. We'll be talking to Josh Klingler coming up. Again, continuing our look forward to the Chiefs against the Chargers coming up on Thursday Night Football. Jason, thank you very much for joining us.
I appreciate it, man. Good times.
Hello and welcome back. Still joined by Ryan, and we have Josh Klingler from the Kansas City Chiefs radio network. He's the sideline reporter for them, here to help us look forward to the Thursday night game tonight against the Chiefs against the Chargers. Josh, thank you very much for your time and welcome to the show.
We've got our first of many games of the year.
Yes, absolutely. And it couldn't have been set up any better. Both teams 1-0 in the first game of the season. Both quarterbacks looking very hot. We'll start off with your quarterback, Patrick Mahomes. Does it get any better than that to start the season?
No, I certainly don't think it does. He was in absolute command of this offense, and I think wanted to set a little tone with game number one. And it was as if he had a checklist of, I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to do this, I want to do that, and pretty much checkmarked everything. Got Travis Kelce a big game, got the new guys involved. Juju Smith-Schuster, Marquez Valdez-Scantling got involved, got McCole Hardman deep down the field, got the running backs involved. I mean, you couldn't have asked for a better offensive game, certainly out of the Chiefs. It felt almost like a preseason game, like extended, that they were kind of having their way. They got in control early. At one point I looked up and I thought, man, they've accomplished a lot. I looked up at the clock and there was 8 minutes to go in the third quarter. I thought, my goodness, they've had a game. And so, yeah, you couldn't have asked much more of a performance, certainly on the offensive side. Defense was just fine. I'm not knocking that at all, but offensively, I mean, Patrick Mahomes, there was any questions of where this offense was going to go, I think he wanted to get them answered very quickly in game number one.
Absolutely. I think we're going to stick with the offense, as you said at the start. That's the headline grabber from week one. You mentioned the two new wide receivers. If you lose a top-notch talent like Tyreek Hill, how do you replace them? You probably can't, but getting two stars in their own right to fill that hole is a pretty good way of doing it. You mentioned that the ball was spread out to them. How do you feel they played? Let's start with Juju Smith-Schuster. I noticed he did have one fumble, didn't he, during the game? That is something that has famously crept into his game. It's kind of saw it a couple of times in Pittsburgh, especially down when kind of the games were really tight. He had a famous one, I believe, in the playoffs. Is this just kind of growing pains? Is this something you think the coaching staff over there in Kansas City can kind of tune out of his game a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. They're really big on not turning the football over. He took that one pretty hard too, despite the fact that they were, in command. I did talk to him after the game, and it was affecting him. Like, it was like, all right, he scored 44 today. It's okay, But I think that's good in a way that keeps you hungry. Like, I know I can do better. I know this team can do better. He's been kind of the go-to guy for Patrick Mahomes as well. We saw it a lot during training camp. We didn't get to see it much in the preseason. He played just one possession early on in game one of the preseason before they held him out to kind of rest that swollen knee. Seems to be 100% from that capacity and look like he's earned the trust of his quarterback right out of the chute. So it was great to get him involved in that regard. MVS had a probably few less chances in game number one, but you're going to see it. And this, their ability to get the ball to different places. I mean, if you're not going to guard Travis Kelce, or Travis Kelce has a massive mismatch, they're going to continue to feed the beast, and there's no reason not to. And so it wasn't probably the breakout performance for everybody else that they will have at some point in time, because Travis was hot, and if you get him the ball, just keep giving him the ball as long as you can.
Do you think it was wise that the Chiefs went for two kind of slightly different wide receivers in that Juju Smith-Schuster, to me, big physical guy, excellent at those kind of short, medium routes. Valdez-Scantling, not necessarily an out-and-out speedster, but a very tall wide receiver, very good in the red zone. And as you mentioned, asking Mahomes to deal with the game slightly differently this season, use the skill set of the players where they are good, as opposed to having an all-round guy like Hill. Do you think that was really wise? Are you happy with those two decisions and how that can improve this offense rather than limit it?
Yeah, I mean, even if Tyreek Hill was here, I think that we'd been saying try to get bigger, try to find something a little bit different. I think they tried that a little bit. Josh Gordon was the experiment last year. It ultimately did not work, but he presented something different. Size, still speed, but size, bigger targets. And I think that's something that they've been looking to do anyway. All in all, losing Tyreek Hill was not easy, but I think they have a better overall wide receiver room. I think from top to bottom, the others that left as well, I think they improved off the 3 and the 4 wide receivers spots as well. So I think overall the room is better. It's different as well because, as you mentioned, they went kind of different in that regard. And it's the same on the flip side. We'll talk defense coming up, I'm sure, in a little bit, but they kind of did that in the secondary too, where we were kind of pining for bigger, taller corners, and they went and did that in the draft too. So I think there was an emphasis on still maintaining speed, but trying to find a little bit different look. I think, in certain ways, the Chiefs offense had become kind of predictable. And when you have a guy like Tyreek Hill that can stretch the field and you want to try to throw it over the top, it's fun. You want to do it. And then if they take it away, you're going to have to adjust a little bit. And so I think last year we saw some of the adjustment, even with Tyreek Hill. I think this year you see more of an adjustment. They were able to go back and do a lot of different things offensively that they haven't been able to do in the past and incorporate some new things. The offense is I think it's still going to hum along. I think it's just going to be looking a little bit different. At the end of the day, are you going to have the same amount of yards and touchdowns and points per game? Probably right in the neighborhood. I don't think there's going to be any kind of drop off in that regard. It's just going to look a little bit differently. I think Travis Kelce is going to get his, and then everybody else is going to kind of fight. I think it looks like, from what we've seen early on, that Juju could be the number 2 target, and then everybody else, hey, if Patrick plays like this, they're going to all get the football somehow, some way. Even a Jody Fortson who's got 1 catch for 1 yard and 1 touchdown. Like, he'll find a way to get guys the football, and I'm hoping that continues because that's going to be tough for teams to stop. I think they're going to try to stop Travis Kelce first and foremost. At least I thought that was the case. Wasn't really against Arizona. They weren't quite as capable of doing that and then make everybody else beat you, but they're willing to make everybody else beat you too. This is going to be a fun offense to watch.
Right. And Josh, looking ahead to the game against the Chargers, who are you keen in on from an offensive perspective on who's going to have the big impact versus this quite strong Chargers defense? Do you reckon it's going to be one for the ground, or do you think Patrick Mahomes is going to spread it around through the air again, and we're going to see big games from receivers again?
I'm always the one saying, run the football, run the football, run the football. But this offense doesn't do that first and foremost. If you can get total rushing out of the group, which they did last week, to balance out with the passing attack, I think that's the ultimate way this team has success. And so, I think it starts first with Travis Kelce, right? Try to get him going as well. I think the Chargers are a little better equipped probably to try to handle Travis Kelce than the Arizona Cardinals were a week ago. That just means more opportunities for the wide receivers, and then continue to get those downfield looks when you can. I know they missed on a couple of shots down the field last week that they'd like to have back, but yeah, no, they're going to try to spread this. What they did in game 1 is what they hope to do. It's take advantage of guys that are the hot hand, move the football around, get a lot of guys involved, keep you guessing, show a lot of different formations, play 3 tight ends at times, run through running backs. And I think all the running backs showed pretty well. The 3 that played last week all showed very well. I think they'll continue to try to do that. I don't know that you'll have a dominant guy kind of week in and week out. I think the whole thing's going to be a adding up of the parts to make the whole, and that makes it tough for defenses to get after. Who are you going to key on? I don't know. I would say double and triple Travis Kelce, and then make the Chiefs beat you other ways. But they seem to be very content that hey, that's going to happen, and we're going to try to beat you different ways. It's a fun problem to have. Andy Reid told me this preseason that his batteries don't get recharged. Because I asked him, I said, does this offense like get you going again? Because it's different than you've had to do. There's more pieces involved. You get to go and kind of get into the lab and draw stuff up. And he said, I'm always recharged. I don't have any problem with that. But I tend to think that this new group of players, maybe new questions about where this offense can go has really fueled this entire team, Andy Reid included.
Something as well that you mentioned, Josh, the ground game. I felt like it got hot at the end of last season, not necessarily at the start, but behind Edwards-Helaire. Were you a little bit surprised in terms of the carry distribution from last week? Pacheco obviously led the team. He got 12 of those carries, and then Edwards-Helaire with 7. Is that something the Chiefs are looking to do, kind of move away or maybe balance out Edwards-Helaire? I would have thought Edwards-Helaire would be the starter.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's going to get the early carries, and he played well at the very beginning of the game. Pacheco maybe took advantage a little bit of a point in the game where they were trying to take the air out of the football a little bit and try to run a little bit more clock and probably get him some looks. And then, yeah, that I call it the Pacheco drive. It's early. I talk about the Pacheco drive, though, where the offensive line they were just mauling people. They were really content to put the football on the ground and go. I think, Clyde Edwards-Helaire is going to be the number one option, but they still want to see what they can get. And frankly, he's had a couple of seasons in which he's been injured. And so it's probably a smart move to not throw a ton on his table and try to balance it out and try to keep him fresher longer, because he's been a guy so far that hasn't been able to play the full season. And so to be able to balance it out and use a number of different players, Jerick McKinnon came on at the end of last year as well in the running game and kind of fills in the gaps for some different ways you can use the running back. And so I wouldn't be surprised if this a rotation type thing is not the norm for this entire season, because it's a way to keep CEH a little bit fresher.
You mentioned kind of moving the ball around on the offense and not being predictable. It must be great to have that, to be able to do that scheme wise. We saw in the game last week that kind of I don't even know what to call it, the pitch toss dive to Travis Kelce, where he kind of plunged into the end zone and kind of half a roll out for Mahomes. It must be incredible to have that kind of dynamicness in the coaching room to draw up these plays. And when you have a quarterback, it seems like Mahomes can make these plays work. It almost seems insulting to call them trick plays or gimmick plays, because they make them work so fluidly. Clearly, everyone's very well drilled about the timings of all these interesting little gadget plays, let's call them.
Yeah, and I've hesitated to do that too, especially when they get in the red zone. I've accused them at times of being a little too cute in the red zone, and I'd love for them to just be able to line up and run the football and pound it in there. And they haven't exactly been a team that's been in the mode of doing that. But then you see like the shovel pass for a touchdown again, right? And some may call that a gimmick. But the fact is, they have run different variations of that play how many times now, and it continues to be successful. So why would you say, hey, go away from this? Teams can't stop it. It's been incredible to watch. But yeah, the offensive mind of Andy Reid, of Eric Bieniemy, and now getting Matt Nagy back, the one-time offensive coordinator, who, of course, the head coach of the Chicago Bears, comes back and he's working directly with Mahomes. You have those three in an offensive room together, and then the infamous Andy Reid dry erase board that he has in his office. I haven't been in there, but I can't imagine what it looks like right now. And the plays that they're digging out of their minds, and probably file cabinets as well, to try to bring back to this offense. Yeah, it looks like a lot of fun to be a fly on the wall watching them scheme this offense, because there are a number of different directions they can go, and hopefully that pays off. I mean, everything worked this past week, but hopefully in a game where something's not working, you're able to use something else and have that go. And so you'll have those days where not everything's working to 100%, but you have other options to go to. The more versatile you can be, the harder this thing's going to be to stop.
Yeah, and we already spoke about it a little bit, but just to touch on before we move on to the defense, obviously the Chargers present a little bit of a different look on the defense. Obviously, very good secondary. Derwin James and Asante Samuel Jr. stand out. Do you think it's going to be a bit more of that short intermediate game? Maybe a bit more. Obviously, Travis Kelce is going to feature a lot. Seems like a prime game to get Juju Smith-Schuster involved even more than he was last week, and really pull those safeties and defensive backs in a little bit and then go for those shots. Probably Mecole Hardman, a speedster on the outside, is probably a good option if you're looking at fantasy-wise for a deep touchdown.
And then running backs as well. Throw the ball to the running backs out of the backfield. May see that a little bit more this week too. The big difference with the Chargers is they can get to you with their front. Arizona could not. They had to use a lot of blitz to try to get to the quarterback. They aren't a team that gets home a lot. Khalil Mack was Khalil Mack. I was hoping that he wasn't going to be. He was very good in game number 1. Bosa's always a problem. So those two guys off the edge specifically, you can get enough pressure with just your front guys. And so that leaves more guys out in coverage to be able to handle the Chiefs. So a little bit different look, maybe a little tougher sledding. You're going to have to take a little more what the defense gives you maybe at times. We've seen the Chiefs content to do that, but it is the best way to defend them, not allow them to get up and over the top and make them work their way down the field. Although what we've seen so far in 3 preseason games and the first game here, they're very content to march the football down the field too. So, but yeah, the Chargers very good defensively, much better than Arizona was beat up in the secondary last week too. And so they caught the Cardinals at a very good time. That's the team that's going to be better, assuming they get healthier a little bit later. But yeah, the secondary certainly, and then the pass rush, keeping Mahomes clean will be a high priority.
And during that preseason and the first week 1, how has that offensive line gelled? Is it looking strong, or are there any concerns there? Any injuries to report? Actually, I don't remember seeing any, but I know the offensive line can get kind of banged up, especially.
Yeah, Trey Smith was the one that didn't play a lot the other day, and hopefully he'll be able to go as well. The second-year guard had an ankle injury, and he tried to come out in the second half and do some work on the field. And I think they probably could have pushed him back in, but they got Nick Allegretti, who's been a valuable guy, played in the Super Bowl, right? And so he's kind of the backup at every position. I think they felt content not to push Trey Smith into injuring that ankle any further, but he has been practicing this week and expect him to play. I think it's still a big year for Orlando Brown. I think it's that he's the one to keep an eye on at left tackle, because heading into obviously a franchise tag season, unable to come to terms on a long-term deal, he's still got a lot to prove. And I don't think it's the worst thing in the world that it's a prove it type situation for him at that left tackle spot. This division, as you guys well know, is very versed in defensive ends right now. It seems to be the hot position. And so left tackle's very, very important. So how he holds up against this Charger front will be a big test. And then on the right side, Andrew Wiley is just a guy that he seemingly has been plan B all along, and then nobody beats him out, or Lucas Niang gets injured. They brought in Darian Kennard in the draft. They talked very highly of in the preseason, and he never really pushed. He's a guy that doesn't seem to be like option number 1, but he keeps winning the job, and he's super solid over there, and you don't notice him a lot. And then the interior 3, I mean, I'm a huge Joe Thuney fan. I think you can put that guy at any of the 5 spots in the offensive line and feel great about it. He just does his job. And then Creed Humphrey, and then Trey Smith, assuming Trey Smith plays, they're just getting better and better in year 2. They look like established veterans. So yeah, not a lot of concerns along that offensive line, other than you're playing very good, especially defensive ends. And so can you keep those guys from frantically screaming around the corner and keep Patrick safe, which is everybody's number 1 goal, present company included.
Well, moving on to the other side of the ball for the Chiefs, a pretty good game against what could have been quite a tricky quarterback to defend. Obviously, Kyler Murray is very, very elusive, very difficult to get your hands on. Pretty much bottled them up from the start from what I saw. And like you said, it always helps when the offense can impose themselves. But guys like Bolton had a really strong game, 10 tackles in total. Is he going to be a standout for you guys on defense this season?
Oh, yeah. He's only heading into year 2. They've given him the cap, or the defensive play caller responsibility. So he wears what they call the green dot. He gets the calls in from the sideline, and they've turned the defense over to him. He's in charge of getting everybody lined up. And man, the way he runs downhill, I think reminds me of Derek Johnson. And and he might be faster than DJ was, but Derek was a guy that could shoot the gap and get in the backfield, and he was a menace in getting after sacks or hitting running backs in the backfield. And Bolton's got that same quality. And then the guys up front played well, and I think that's the key to this entire defense all season long. Can they do a better job of getting to the quarterback? Can they create more sacks up front? Chris Jones had an excellent camp and an excellent preseason, and every single practice he was getting raved about, and then came out in game one and looked the part. Didn't get a sack, but was super disruptive up front and creates a lot of havoc. If he's doing that, and then you get Frank Clark going. Carlos Dunlap was nice to see in game number one, get a sack and I think 4 tackles. We didn't see him at all in the entire preseason as he was nursing an Achilles injury. And so having a veteran presence like that to go along with the rookie George Karlaftis, if those 4 can get themselves to the quarterback this season, I probably should mention Mike Dana as well. He's kind of the forgotten guy, had early sacks last year and then kind of tapered off, but he's looked a lot better and is looking to put together kind of a full campaign. If they can do a much better job in the sack department and the pressure department, that's going to ease up things on still a relatively unproven, especially corner position in the secondary for the Chiefs. That's going to pay huge dividends. And so I think this defense will go as the guys up front play, and then you get Willie Gay and Nick Bolton running around and cleaning up a bunch of tackles. There's a lot of upside. There's still some unknowns though with this defense. I think there's no question. You feel a whole bunch great about the offense, and defensively, it's like you still got to prove it. And you probably got to prove it week in and week out, at least for the first several weeks.
So, Josh, obviously a guy who departed in the offseason, Tyrann Mathieu, went off to the Saints. How much is he going to be missed in a game like this against the Chargers, against a very strong quarterback? Just his presence on the field alone is worth a lot to a defense. Do you think he's going to be missed, or do you think that are you confident in the safety position at the moment for the Kansas City Chiefs against?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to downplay the departures of either Tyreek Hill or Tyrann Mathieu, but as I told you on the offensive side, one, I get the contract situation with Tyreek Hill, which it's big money, right? But they replaced that and made the room overall better. I don't want to knock what Tyrann Mathieu did, especially in the Super Bowl seasons, and he was that absolute leader in that locker room. But frankly, it seemed as if that waned last year, and the skills waned as well. He wasn't quite the player that he was a couple of seasons ago. It was the absolute right time to move on, and they replaced him. And because everybody was kind of like, well, Tyreek Hill's gone, Tyrann Mathieu's gone. Like Justin Reed came to town, and it was barely a mention. He just like snuck in and had a press conference, and no one paid attention to him. He is a really good safety, and he is also the departure of Tyrann Mathieu, I think, has opened a kind of a leadership opportunity for Juan Thornhill, and he has ran through that thing. I mean, he is a different guy, player, more vocal, allowed. I think he feels kind of relieved to be able to kind of showcase himself. Tyrann Mathieu's got a big, despite being a diminutive kind of guy, he casts a large shadow. And I think that Juan Thornhill learned a lot from Tyrann Mathieu and is kind of ready to kind of take some of those leadership things that he took. And so that combination, I think, is very good. Brian Cook, the rookie that they added as well in the draft, is an upgrade from Dan Sorensen, another valuable leader type guy that it was the right time to move on in terms of skill set. Cook is younger, faster, downhill hitting. I think they've gotten better in that safety group. The corners, we'll keep an eye on the Trent McDuffie injury. That was not a good one from the other day. I think that's the one that's going to impact the Chiefs the most in terms of the least likely to be available on Thursday. And that may require another of the rookies to step up. Jalen Watson, Joshua Williams, 2 other of their corner draft picks, both played last week and will probably be called upon again this week. And then L'Jarius Sneed had a sack in addition to being in coverage. He's pretty automatic now for the Chiefs, and then Fenton, their kind of nickel guy. Maybe he's thrust into a starting role if McDuffie can't go, but I think they got enough in the secondary as well. Though, I mean, I love the Chargers skill guys are fantastic. So it's a lot of work, whoever faces up against them. Even without Keenan Allen, there's a lot of offensive weapons on this Charger team, assuming Allen doesn't play. Those hamstrings I don't like, especially this time of the year on a short turnaround. Doesn't feel like those things are something you want to bug players. So wouldn't be shocked if we don't see Allen for the Chargers and McDuffie for the Chiefs. I just think that you don't mess with hamstrings, and you want to get them better sooner rather than later.
One more injury as well that I want to bring up is Harrison Butker. Do you expect him to play next week? Should everyone be drafting Justin Reed as their kicker for this week in fantasy?
Well, it's funny. They auditioned a whole bunch of kickers. They added one to the practice squad, and I think that you'll probably see them err on the side of caution with Harrison Butker. I mean, he gave it his go the other day because he couldn't put much weight on that injured ankle, and then they taped him up. He looked like an offensive lineman. He had a big taped boot on his plant foot last week, and they could have kind of pushed him out again and kind of tried to do the same thing. You're just going to do the points, right? The extra points or the field goals, and then have Justin Reed kick off. But bringing in kickers to audition this week, it really kind of gave us all the feeling that they're going to give Harrison Butker this extra time to get off that injured ankle, get the swelling down, get it feeling better, and get him back out there sooner rather than later. But it's nice having a Justin Reed as an emergency kicker now, isn't it? Because we kind of laughed about it during the preseason. And, Andy Reid has a knack of allowing players to do different things and let them have a little bit of fun. You'll see somebody catch a touchdown pass kind of out of nowhere that you're not expecting that doesn't factor in. And so the Justin Reed thing, I felt like fell in that category. He mentioned he kicked off in a preseason game in Houston, and we really didn't think anything of it. And then he got the chance in the preseason game. We're like, haha, that was fun. But, I guess if there was an extreme emergency, you might be able to use him. Didn't expect that to be happening in week number 1, but it did, and it largely worked out. I think his second extra point, though, kind of showed him it was this kind of showed he probably should get in here that somebody that does this at least has done it at least full time. So an emergency kicker, Justin Reed is a fantastic option, though. I'd love to see him continue to kick off, though, because it looked like he was having a blast doing it, and he was doing a really good job at it as well.
Hey, well, if you can get a guy who can run down the field as a starting safety and lay a smack after he's booted it 80, 70 yards down the pitch, why not? The NFL is all about gaining an advantage. If you can get one extra man in there to lay a hit, I think we might see him do it.
No offense to Harrison Butker. He doesn't want to do that. I don't blame him. But you got Justin Reed out there. Yeah, he provides you with an extra tackler. Now, the one we need to stay away from is Patrick Mahomes told me in the preseason he's been begging Andy Reid to let him punt.
Okay, maybe.
And he hasn't gotten that wish yet. And he actually said, "Hey, I'm upset. Justin Reed just got here, and they let him kick. I want to be able to punt in a game." But I don't think Andy Reid's gonna showcase that anytime soon.
Maybe if they're up a lot, the old was it Dan Marino who had the little pooch punt kick, like little 10-yard little.
Yeah, I don't think it would be hard to do it if you really wanted to, right? Maybe it's a short field kind of pooch punt type thing. They look like they're going to go for it on a 4th down, and you let him just have one just to appease him, maybe. But I don't think it's in the playbook anytime soon, despite Mahomes bugging him about it.
Well, I think we've learned from week 1 already. You never know what's in that Kansas City playbook. Josh, thank you very much for joining us. We really appreciated your insight. Before we let you go, let everybody know where they can find your work and what you'll be up to there for the next couple of weeks.
Well, on the Chiefs Radio Network on the sidelines each and every Sunday on the broadcast, and then daily on 610 Sports Radio in Kansas City at Josh Klingler on Twitter. I'm always working somewhere, so pretty easy to find.
Well, Josh, thank you very much. And we too are also very easy to find. You can find us on Twitter and Instagram at Under Center Podcast. We're on YouTube, Under Center Podcast. You can find us on Spotify, on iTunes at Under Center Podcast. And we are delighted to be brought to you in partnership with Locker this season. They are a new sports app that centralizes premium sports content and puts power in the hands of the fans to personalize their world of sports. So you get a range of different content from all different sports, including premium NFL sources that can be tailored to your interests. You can download that app it's only available in Ireland and the UK at the moment on Irish, UK, iOS and Play stores today. Josh, thank you very much for joining me. Rian, thank you as always for joining me here on the show today.
Yeah, it was a blast.
And from me, thank you, and we'll see you next time.